you expected it to be. We are so excited to be here with you again. You are live with your boy, your men's coach, Rolando, on the XY Spark podcast, which is a podcast for men. If you'd like to join our conversation, please, you're more than welcome to do so. You can join, you can subscribe to our podcast on the Podbean app. That is xyspark.podbean.com. That's xyspark.podbean, P-O-D, podbean.com. And you can join live in the conversation. If you'd like to join us live on YouTube, you can join the conversation on YouTube as well. It is also at XY Spark. For those who join us morning by morning right here on TikTok, we appreciate you. We value your presence, and we just wanted to tell you how grateful we are that you have chosen to make XY Spark the platform to start your morning. Today it's a Monday. It's Motivation Monday, and we are going to continue to have conversations about men's mental health. Why? Because our goal and our role here on the XY Spark podcast is to create a safe space for men to come and talk about their mental health. I'm also wide open to offering live life coaching calls in the moment. So our commitment is that from Monday through to Friday, every single day, beginning between the hour of 5:30 to 5:45 Mountain Standard Time, we will be here to connect with you, to chat with you, to give you helpful hints about things that you can do as a man in 2024 going on into 2025 to preserve your mental health and to have a better mental health. Why? Because we are aiming to to seek to encourage more men that, in spite of what's going on, in spite of how you're feeling, in spite of the challenges that you are having, there is a space where you can connect and you can work through that issue and overcome or manage it more better. So, if you are a man, welcome to the podcast. If you're a woman, thank you for being here. And I want to send a shout out to all my female listeners, because yes, guys, we have some female listeners who they are here every single morning. They're commenting, they're liking, they're sharing, they're telling their friends. And I want to encourage all those who have been listening to the XY Spark podcast to tell more men, more people to come and join in the conversation. Let us challenge the stigma. Let us break the stamina of the stigma about men's mental health. And guys, how are we going to do that? We've got to keep the conversations going over and over and over again, because mental health is not a myth. And listen, men, I'm going to tell you this. You are not immune. I am not immune to being impacted by mental health. So let's keep those conversations going, guys, because the stigma around men's mental health, it it has it sinks so deep, and it has so many layers, that if we are going to prevent some of it or stop some of it from overtaking us, from taking control of our families, we have to keep the conversations going over and over. We cannot stop. We have to make this a lifetime commitment, because we want to save our sons, we want to save some fathers, we want to save some of our nephews, we want to save some of our neighbors. The goal is to save more lives, is to lessen the amount of suicides that is happening in the male population worldwide. That's my goal, guys. And I'm inviting you guys to come on board. Let's join together to shift the focus and to save some more marriages, to save some more lives of some more men. So, that's our goal. That's what we're here to do. And thank you so much for joining us. Guys, I encourage you, to share this live and invite more of your friends to come into the space, and let's chat about men's mental health. Dwayne, thank you for being here. Wherever you're joining us from, shout out to you. And if you're joining us live, just type in the chat where you're joining us from, so that we can send a shout out to you. because we appreciate your presence and we want you guys to know that we in no way take for granted how you have given your time to come into this space. So thank you. Dean, shout out. Mohammed, shout out to you guys. Thank you. So we are talking about today, guys. We are it's Monday and we dub our Monday podcast Motivation Monday. But this morning we're looking at the theme. The theme is, why is it important for a man to know himself? Do you think it's important for a man to know himself? And if so, why? Why is it important for a man to know himself? Now, I want to set the platform this morning by establishing a few things. Number one is is that many of us as men, and I'm not talking. I can talk for my own self. I know that as a man, there were times in my life when I really struggled to know myself. There were times in my life when, I was asking questions, what really makes Rolando who he is? What makes Rolando different from everybody else? And why do I need to be different? Am I not supposed to be like, aren't there persons around me that I should seek to emulate? Why is it important for Rolando? And I can't speak for you, right? You guys, you might be here, you may be listening, you're like, I don't struggle with that. I know myself, right? I don't struggle with any low self-esteem, I don't self-sabotage myself, I don't have negative thinking patterns. I don't self harm in any way. I know myself. So if you are that guy, kudos to you. But there was a time in my own life when I struggled, when I tried to find myself, because the noises and the voices on the outside were much louder than the confidence that I had on the inside. So I did not know who I am. I had no idea where I was going. I was that guy who it was almost as if whatever direction the wind was blowing, that's where I'm going. I struggled with the fear of missing out. I compromised my values. I had no standards. There was nothing there that I was embracing as a person to say, this is who I am. These are the things why I am Rolando. No, there was nothing that was there that I was holding on to. I was holding on to what everybody else was holding on to. So my identity was almost as if it was wrapped up in the external opinions of what's okay and what's not. No, I'm not now. As I said, guys, and I'm telling you respectfully, I can't speak for you. I don't know your story, right? You might be that guy who you're here right now, you're tuned into this podcast live, and you can't relate. Okay, you have it down pot, you have it together. So I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about men who one time in their life, like me, you struggled to find yourself. You did not know who you are. You could not stay committed. You had no connection to yourself. As a matter of fact, it was a fearful thing for you to even sit with your thoughts sometimes because you're scared of where it might take you. All right. So I'm not speaking to you. I'm talking to those men who, if you are to be brutally honest with yourself, there was a time in your life like me where you really struggled to find yourself. And let me tell you some of those things that a man who's struggling to find himself will do. All right. A man who struggles to find himself, he oftentimes he always feel like he needs to be involved in everything that's going on. Right? He has no boundaries. A man who struggles to find himself has no boundaries. It's a anything goes. A man who struggles to find himself has no standards. A man who struggles to find himself, oftentimes he will sell himself out cheap. A man who struggles to find himself has no direction, right? It is almost as if he is a puppet. He's easily led. He doesn't know how to say no. He doesn't know how to validate and appreciate wins that he has accomplished by himself. A man who struggles to find himself will sabotage his own success. A man who struggles to find himself will self destruct. And self destructive behaviors, guys, it come in so many different forms. So many different forms. Because you do not know who you are. And so you allow yourself to be placed in sometimes compromising positions. Guys, when we look at the incarceration rate, for example, a lot of guys who are behind bars now, they are there because they did not know themselves. They had no idea who they were. So they are constantly led astray by other men, unfortunately, who recognize their vulnerability and they use that to their advantage. And there are a lot of young men now who are behind bars because they did not know themselves. There are a lot of young men now who they are living, their mindset that in which they are living is it's an incarcerated mindset because they are now stuck. They're stuck in confusion. They're stuck in a desire to get to know who they are. But the fearful thing is that because they've been influenced for so long by the wrong associations, they have drifted so far off target that they are struggling now. They're living in this twilight zone where they're they're scared. And if you're a man and you're out there and this is your experience, then getting to know yourself requires a lot of intentionality. Intentionality is one of those vital steps that as a man you are going to have to be invested in doing, being intentional, recognizing the reality of where you're at. You see, a man who does not know himself is not ready to be in a relationship of any sort because you first have to know who you are in order to know what you need and in order to identify a partner that's going to be able to connect with you and work together with you as a team in order for you to experience a healthy relationship. So if you are a man and you do not know yourself, then being in a relationship should be something that you consider doing after you would have found yourself. We have too many men now who are just walking around like robots. They're lost. They don't have direction. They don't understand the value of commitment. They can't stay by themselves. They're afraid to do reflection. They're not quite aware of who they are or why they are or what makes them unique. And as a man, you have got to be intentional as it relates to getting to know yourself. The next thing that's critical, why it's important for you to know yourself as a man, is that knowing yourself as a man will help you to create a better mindset. Remember, mindset makes a man or breaks a man. And having a healthier mindset is what's going to help to make you become more acquainted with who you are as a person. So, knowing yourself is critical if you are going to grow. What we're talking about here, guys, is creating that mindset that is going to help you to become the best version of yourself. And guys, I'm going to be real with you. Sitting around and saying, hey, I'm going to do it, I'm going to work on myself, it's not going to make it, guys. You have got to start setting some realistic and some practical goals that's going to help you to move closer towards getting to know yourself. As men, we make too many excuses. We find too many reasons why making it a priority is not something that we are being intentional on. We have to make our mental health a priority, and getting to know ourselves is an important part of balancing and resetting our reality. So, whoever you are and whatever you're doing, guys, I want you to understand how important it is for you as a man to get to know yourself. Remember, guys, your identity is not just wrapped up in your career, because there's so many of us as men who we believe that, hey, I am an architect, so that's where it ends. I'm an oil sands worker, so that's where it ends. I'm a lawyer, so that's where it ends. I'm a bus driver, so that's where it ends. I'm an engineer, so that's where it ends. Okay, I'm an IT professional, so that's where it ends. But let's say we take off your professional hat. Who are you? Are you saying if your professional hat is removed, you're nobody? When did your identity as a man becomes wrapped up in your career? So you're a celebrity. Okay, let's say you're no longer a celebrity. Does that mean you're nobody? Are you saying that you've been living your life on the stage of a career? And when the career is taken away, then you're no longer important, you're no longer valuable. Who are you? So a man has got to know himself outside of his career choice, because the reality is your career does not make you who you are. You make your career what it is, which means knowing yourself, which means celebrating your authenticity as a man. I want to share a quote here with you guys. It's a quote that, as I was sitting down and reflecting, this quote, it came up and I said I want to share. And here's a quote that I want to share with you guys. The quote is this. It says here, don't allow your past fears to crowd out your present focus. And oftentimes, what happens to us is that our past fears crowd out our present focus, so much so that we miss opportunities in the moment. Do not allow your past fears to crowd out your present focus. A man should seek to know himself, because it is in knowing yourself that you're able to have direction, right? You need some direction. Every man needs some direction. And if you and I are going to find some direction, if we are going to grow, if we're going to experience a shift in our mindset, we have to know ourselves. We have to know who we are and who it is. Hey, I see you there, Sasha Lee. Good morning. Happy New Year to you. Sending a shout out, guys. I'm always excited to see. This is one of my younger sisters. She's online. She's there in Jamaica. Good to see you, my sister. Sending love your way. Right? So we're back to this conversation, why it's important for a man to know himself. Listen, guys, let me say this to you. We have to, as we segue over into a new year. A new year is just peeping over the horizon right now. You have got to stay committed to getting to know yourself, right? The old behaviors, the old ways, the old thoughts that you had in 2024. I want to challenge you to see to kick that to the curb one way or the next, because it's just about time now for you to get to know yourself, right? Know your values, right? Know the things that are important to you. Know your associations and choose them better. Rethink some of the choices, the lifestyle choices that you have made. A man has got to get to know himself. It is in knowing yourself that you'll be able to be an effective father, an effective friend, an effective partner, an effective employee. You will be effective in your career if you get to know yourself. So what would that look like? Getting to know yourself, guys, means sitting down and reflecting on what are some of those things that I have control over in my life that I've been doing that is not working and needs to change. Getting to know yourself means asking serious questions, practical questions. Okay, have I been playing around with my life's journey? Do I have myself surrounded with healthy people or unhealthy people? Okay, is my mindset in the right place, or do I need to seek to get professional help so that I can heal and grow to become the best version of myself? You have to get to know yourself. You have to ask life changing questions. Stop having surface conversations, guys. I'm saying this to you, all my viewers. If you're live on YouTube, if you're live on TikTok, if you're live here on the podcast, I need you to understand this, that going forward and getting to know yourself means challenging the old patterns, breaking the old patterns, taking responsibility of your journey. Why? Because your mental health is your responsibility. And some of those things that you're not able to do on your own, seek to get professional help if that is what you are going to need in order to know yourself. I struggled. I told you guys, I struggled with knowing myself for years, but I've had to do some work, some serious work. I had to do some soul searching because I've had to do some work to work on my own traumatic past. I've had to do counseling to work on, understanding myself, right? And you, if you are here and you are listening, you may need to do some counseling too. You may need to reach out for help too. You may need to connect with a community. You may need to change sometimes your associations because, one of the most detrimental things that can happen to you as a person while you're on your journey to get to know yourself, sometimes people are going to judge you harshly, right? Friends are going to judge you harshly. There are men who you surround yourself with who they may start looking at you and thinking that, hey, you're weird, you're not strong enough, you're not smart enough, you're not man enough. But this journey of self-growth and getting to know yourself sometimes is a lonely journey. You have to be willing to go on that journey by yourself as a way of self growth. That's why it's called self growth. It's not crowd growth, it's not community growth. It's self growth and self improvement and self discovery, right? So it may come across as, hey, it's a selfish thing. But remember that you can't give what you don't have. So if you are not healthy, if your mindset if your body is not healthy, if you don't know who you are, then you will not know what you stand for. So the important thing is getting to know yourself will help you first in the relationship that you have with yourself, and secondly, in the relationship that you're seeking to have with others. So knowing yourself means, hey, what are my spiritual expectations? What are my emotional expectations? What are my psychological expectations and my physical expectations? Physically, understanding yourself is key because remember, guys, when your body is in a healthy place, so too will your mind, because you see, the mind and body, they depend on each other. And growing up and discovering what your physical and your mental expectations are is key. If we don't have any expectations, we oftentimes end up compromising our standards, or we become people who are easily led because we have no standards. So you've got to know what are your standards? What are your non-negotiables? Do you have a list of non-negotiables? Or are you that man who you live your life sort of for anything goes? If that's how you're living your life, then you need to step back and get to know yourself. So here's a question that I want you to think about. I want you to ask this question: who am I? Who are you? Who are you when the lights go out? Who are you when nobody's watching? What are your standards? What is your moral compass looking like? Are you somebody who is able to say no when it's time? Do you set healthy boundaries in your associations? If you're a person who you find it easier to use drugs or alcohol when you're feeling overwhelmed, I need you to ask yourself, why is this the only option that I've chosen? Is there a healthier way for me to work on myself? Do I need to face those demons so that I can recover, so that I can heal, so that I can take back control of my life? You know, getting to know yourself is important because this is what is going to help you. And this is what has helped me to have a healthier life. So if you struggle with low self esteem, it's okay. But what's not okay is for you to continue to tell yourself, this is it for me. No, that's not it for you. But you have got to do the work. Stop making excuses. Stop feeding fear and feed faith. Stop making excuses. Stop procrastinating. No more of this starting the journey and then turning back. No. If you start to work on yourself, do it all the way. No more of this playing around. Remember, your mental health is your responsibility. And if you are going to heal and become the best version of yourself, you have got to take hold of the journey. This is your journey. This is your life. This is your health. But if you are not taking ownership of the journey, it becomes far more challenging. So, knowing yourself is so important, guys. And I want you to recognize that. Let me just pause here to reset the room. This is your boy, your men's life coach, Rolando. You are in tune to xyspark podcast. This is a podcast for men, but I also want to acknowledge all the women who join us here live on the podcast, whether you're live on TikTok, whether you're live on YouTube, or you're joining live on the Podbean app. We value you, we appreciate you. Thank you for being here and being a part of our conversation. Uh, I see you, Electric King. Thank you for joining. Where are you joining us from? Just type in the chat. We appreciate you. We also want to acknowledge Sasha Lee joining us from Jamaica. Good to have you, Sasha. All right. Now, let's continue our conversation about knowing yourself. When a man knows himself, he will not have some of the struggles that he has in his relationship. Knowing yourself. Hey, I see you, Lillian. Thank you for joining us live here on the podcast. If you have a comment, please feel free to type it in the chat. We do offer live coaching calls as well right here. So we appreciate you. Thank you for joining us here on the podcast. This is Rolando. You're joining the xyspark podcast. We're talking about why it's important for a man to know himself. Now, the next point about knowing yourself and why it's important is if you do not know yourself, you become a liability in a relationship versus an asset. And there are so many men who they want to be in a relationship, but they're not recognizing that, hey, wait a minute, I'm struggling with my self worth. I'm struggling with my identity. I don't understand what's really required of me as a man to be in a relationship because there are a lot of men, a lot of us as men, that we believe that our role in a relationship is to provide financially and sexually, and that's it. But being in this space as a psychotherapist now for over a decade and a half, I've learned, even in my own personal life, that there's a lot more to being in a relationship than providing financially and sexually. And a lot of men, they may say, Rolando, get out of here, man. What else is there? But guys, I can tell you, when a man knows himself, he will recognize that that's it's more than that. When a man knows himself, he's able to recognize that, hey, he also needs to provide emotionally for his family. He also needs to provide spiritually for his family. He also needs to be there to support with leading his family, and he needs to be present. And so many men, they don't understand what being present in a relationship looks like. A man needs to know himself in order to practice presence in his relationship. So when you know yourself, when a man knows himself, he will be able to practice presence in his relationships. Okay. And being present means you're emotionally accessible in your relationship. You are there to provide for your family and you're there to lead your family in an effective way. Because when you know yourself, you'll be present and you'll be effective. You'll know how to connect with every member of your family, not just from a surface level place, not just physically, but you'll be able to connect with them psychologically and emotionally as well. So a man must seek to know himself. A man must seek to embrace and celebrate his true authentic self. But here is the clincher, guys. What does that look like for you? Who are you? What makes you who you are? What gives you the edge? What builds the tenacity and the fortitude in you as a man? What are your strengths? What are those things that motivates you? What gives you the push to get up out of bed every day and celebrate that new day and be someone who brings value to the lives of those with whom you interact? A man who does not know himself will always struggle to bring true value into the lives of those with whom he interacts. Because you see, when you don't know yourself as a man, guys, you're just going through the motion. But a man who knows himself, when he walks into a room, when he connects with somebody, his very presence saturates the place, and it becomes almost as if along comes energy, life, hope, confidence. When you know yourself as a man, those are the things that you bring. You bring a positive energy into the lives of those with whom you interact. A man who knows himself, his partner can celebrate and boast about who he is in front of and behind him. A man who knows himself. Hey, I see you, Sophia. Thank you for joining us. Where you joining us from? Please just type in the chat. Appreciate you. Talu, I see you. Electric King, I see you. Miles, greetings, man. Miles, I see you have a Jamaica flag there. I don't know if that's my body. Miles, maybe, maybe not. But hey, good to see you, Miles. So, guys, it's very important for you to understand this, that a healthy relationship and having a healthy relationship starts with you knowing yourself. Because if you do not have a healthy relationship with yourself first, what gives you the right to say that you want to have a healthy relationship? Are you depending on somebody else to make that a possibility? Or are you in a healthy space where you're able to say, hey, now that I know myself, I'm ready to have a healthy relationship? You see, guys, that's key. And there are so many persons now who they are in a relationship and they're excited, I'm dating, I'm in a relationship, but they're not in a healthy relationship because the work that needs to happen to have a healthy relationship, so many people are not committed. But if you're going to get to know yourself, you have got to be committed to doing the work. And that's the reality. The funny piece is this. Everybody wants to be a diamond, but nobody wants to go through the rough. Nobody is willing to get uncomfortable, to be comfortable. And getting to know yourself, guys, it may bring you through an uncomfortable process. The fiery trials, you may go through a lot of hard knocks on that journey, because the journey of self discovery is not a sit back in your easy chair being in the first class. There's no first class ride to self discovery. Unfortunately, guys, there is no first class ride to self discovery. But you'll get to first class and you'll celebrate self discovery as you are investing in doing the work that you need to do in order to heal and grow, and in order to discover who you are. Those who are joining us live on TikTok, we appreciate you. This is Rolando, your men's life coach. You're tuned to xyspark podcast. This is a podcast for men where we talk about men's mental health, and every morning we will be here between the hour of 5:30 and 6:30 just to talk about men's mental health and to encourage more men to make their mental health a priority, because our goal or aim is creating a safe space like this where we can come and we can keep the conversations going. The goal, guys, is we want to break the stigma. We want to break the stigma about men's mental health, because men's mental health is not a myth. And I'm telling you guys, listen, man, I don't know where you are joining us from, but I'm saying mental health does not discriminate. It doesn't matter your geographical location, it doesn't matter your ethnicity, it doesn't matter your height, your weight, your look. Mental health is a huge thing in the lives of men, period. Wherever you are located, Europe, Africa, the Caribbean, North America, you know, mental health is affecting too many of us as men. And it's because we're not talking about it. And I'm saying I'm here for us to talk about it. So if you want to talk about it, and if you want to keep the conversation going, this is the space for you. And this, guys, is a safe space. There's no judgment here. All right. This is just a space where we're saying, as men, we want to break the stamina of the stigma about men's mental health. We want to prevent another kid or two from not having their dads at home because he's stuck in rehab, or he's stuck behind bars, or he's living on the streets because he did not address his mental health. We want to break that. We want to bring some of those dads back home, and I want to say to you that this is where we started. So that's what xyspark is. So if you want to hear more conversations like these, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go back and listen to some of the interviews, some of the presentations that we've done about men's mental health. You can subscribe also to our podcast, xyspark.podbean.com. You can also listen to it again on Amazon Music. You can listen to it on Spotify. You can listen to it on iTunes, iHeartRadio. We're saying, guys, the journey to break the stigma of the stigma about men's mental health, it starts here and it continues every weekday morning. We are here to talk about men's mental health. Our conversation this morning, or conversation rather, is why it's important for a man to know himself. All right. If you just joined us on TikTok, we appreciate you. Please like, share, comment. If you have a topic that you'd like us to discuss, please type it in the chat. We'll go back and check it later, and we'll make it a conversation coming up in the future. In the meantime, I hope you guys have gained some helpful hints this morning from this conversation. And I just want to say to you guys, today being Motivation Monday, I want you to go out there and I want you to claim the territory. Yes, I want you to claim the territory. I want you to wrap your head around this new reality that if it is possible, you can do it. If it is achievable, you can make it. If it is challenging, you got the tenacity to overcome it. If it's a goal that you'd like to set to work on, it may appear to be difficult, but the difficulty is not there to discourage. The difficulty is there as a way to help you to discover strengths that you have that you were not paying attention to before now. Guys, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you to all our YouTube viewers. If you have joined us live on YouTube, you might not have it, and that's fine. But if you have listened and you have listened all the way to the end, I want you to type in the chat, what helpful hints did you take away from this live? Why? Because your comments and your feedback is important for us. If you have a topic that you'd like us to discuss, please put it there. For those who have joined us live on TikTok, listen, guys, you've been a wonderful audience. Thank you for, putting those hearts in there. I appreciate the love. If you also want to put a comment in there, please do so. Let's just say where you're shouting out from so that we can acknowledge you. Thank you for being here. For those who joined us live on the podcast, those who typed questions in the chat, we appreciate your time. It would not be the same without you. And as usual, guys, I just want to reiterate and remind you that personal development It's not an event, it's a lifestyle. You can experience that lifestyle if you make the personal choice to do something different from what you are doing right now. In the meantime, let me just take your guys' attention to this, that at XY Spark, we believe that there is a spark in you. We will see you again tomorrow morning. Have a great day.